Welcome to Council's second resolution hour. Council is excited today to honor Columbus residents and local initiatives that truly deserve recognition for their great work in our community. Before we begin, I'd like to thank everyone who helped make this event possible, including the clerk's office, my colleagues on council, their teams, our City Hall security team, and the folks at CTV for helping us shine a light on our honorees this afternoon. As we traditionally do, we will now go around the dais in alphabetical order, allowing each council member the opportunity to invite their guests up to the front as they introduce their resolutions that will be considered by council later this evening. We will first start with Council Member President Pro Tem Rob Dorn.
Thank you, Council President. I want to invite Hannah Miller up to the podium while I introduce Resolution 0310X-2024 to recognize and celebrate the third anniversary of Opportunity Ports. For those that may not know, Opportunity Port is an online record sealing and expungement application assistance program that is managed by the Ohio University Drug Enforcement Policy Center. It's aimed at removing barriers for record relief for justice-involved residents of Columbus and Franklin County. 1 in 3 Ohio adults has a criminal record, and the collateral consequences stemming from criminal records present significant economic and social barriers to resources and opportunities such as housing, employment, public benefits, and professional licensing. Opportunity Port began as an initiative here at Columbus City Council and was awarded funding by Schmidt Futures through the Ohio University Alliance and the American Dream Competition. Then the program moved to the Drug Enforcement Policy Center at the Moritz College of Law in July of 2021 to continue its development to serve residents in our community and across Ohio. We launched this pilot on December 1st, 2021, and the DEPIC expanded programs operations, again, to serve all residents in Ohio with criminal records as of July 1st of this past year. Collectively, these service providers have assisted over 1,000 Franklin County residents with determining eligibility for record sealing or expungement and filed applications on behalf of close to 800 county residents. Every single year at Council, we've invested in this program to help our residents receive this record sealing to make the needed steps in their life, whether that be a new job, a new place to live, or just living without having the reminder of past mistakes. Looking forward to passing this resolution here later tonight, but equally excited to have Hannah Miller, who's the program manager at DEPIC, to share some words with us. And folks may remember that Hannah was formerly on my staff here at City Council and was really the driving force towards getting this initiative stood up. And we won't say the name of the university because of the week it is, but we know that sealing someone's criminal record based on academic research at the University of, and inserts the Up North University, that this is one of the most impactful things that folks can do in order to provide themselves a better economic stability and housing stability. And it's really what we know about so often that residents have these past mistakes and don't know how to take care of them. And our criminal justice system is not necessarily organized to be user-friendly. And the whole idea behind an Opportunity Port was to bring a platform here that would allow the ability for folks to be able to access what is legally their rights in a much more user-friendly kind of way to take that away. So with that, I want to hand over the mic to Hannah Miller.
Thank you, President Hardin, President Pro Tem Dorns, and members of Council. Thank you for recognizing the work that Opportunity Port's doing and how far we've come since 2019. Without the support of this council, Opportunity Port and the services we provide to Franklin County and Columbus residents, and now all Ohio residents, would not have been possible. I want to give a special thanks to the other service providers, Equality Ohio, Legal Aid of Southeast and Central Ohio, and the Self-Help Resource Center for their collaboration, patience, and resolve as we built a new service model together to better reach prospective sealing and expungement applicants. Speaking of, I have some numbers to share specifically about Columbus users of Opportunity Port. Of the 1,231 Columbus users who registered for sealing and expungement application assistance between December 1st and I think it was like November 19th, 52% identified as female or as male, 46% as female. Most Columbus users have been between the age of 40 and 61, but a good portion were between the age of 26 and 39 at the time of service. So we're seeing people who are just starting out in their careers and running up against barriers, or people who've been struggling for a very long time and are even nearing retirement, and seeing this be criminal records be an impediment to that type of the goals that they have. We helped a total of 843 Columbus residents file applications to the Franklin County Municipal Court and Court of Common Pleas, and more than 80% of those applications were granted. When someone registers for help through the website, we also ask what's motivated them to seal or expunge their record, and we request personal testimony about how their criminal record has impacted their life. Employment was the most cited motivation, followed by personal and housing, personal being, whatever they define personal as. And the testimonies reflect the many challenges people have faced because of their criminal record. It has made recovery from addiction difficult. It has broken their spirits. It has impacted their relationships with themselves, their family members, kids, their community. It has jeopardized their personal health and hindered their ability to provide safe, stable housing for their children. It has disrupted future plans. And a quick stat from the statewide numbers, 44% of users of Opportunity Port, regardless of whether they live in Franklin County or otherwise, report having a kid living in their home, which really lines up with the national average of about 1 in 2 children having a parent with a criminal record. While we are proud of the number of people we've been able to assist, I want to acknowledge that the work continues. Last year, possession and use of marijuana became legal for those 21 and over in our state, but the benefits of legalization are not retroactive. There are thousands of Franklin County and Columbus residents still living with convictions for use or possession of marijuana who may benefit from sealing and expungement. Of course, providing much needed legal assistance requires resources and money, resources that we believe should be drawn from the portion of marijuana excise tax revenue that Columbus will soon collect. So just really quick, in case you're unfamiliar, 36% of the state's marijuana excise tax is dedicated to the host community cannabis fund. Money from this fund is distributed proportionally to all municipalities and townships that have adult use dispensaries, and there are no restrictions on how these resources can be used. Currently, Columbus has 13 licensed dual use dispensaries, roughly 10% of all Ohio dispensaries. So DEPIC estimates that by the end of this calendar year, after only 6 months of sales, marijuana dispensaries will have generated over $200 million in sales. Just Columbus's. And this means that the city of Columbus can expect to receive around $700,000 in marijuana tax revenue from the host community cannabis fund. Again, that's just 6 months of the beginning of the adult use program. So this is just the beginning of adult use marijuana sales. It's very likely that the revenue will grow substantially as more adult use dispensaries open up. So as I mentioned, there are no restrictions on how the host community cannabis fund should be used. So I encourage council, Auditor Kilgore, the administration, whoever, to seriously consider using some of these funds to address the harms caused by previous state laws that criminalized marijuana. Use the money to run public awareness campaigns about record sealing and expungement, support legal services to ensure sealing and expungement application assistance is accessible, not just available. Doing so would uplift not just people directly affected by past criminal records, but their families and communities as well. Again, I can't overstate my gratitude for the support council has shown Opportunity Port, and I look forward to serving Columbus and Franklin County residents for a 4th year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. I think one of the things I want to underscore from her comments is that it's about accessibility. We have tens of thousands of folks in our community right now that have a criminal record that is eligible for record sealing under the law right now. But the way that our criminal justice system is organized, those folks have to step up and request that kind of relief from our criminal justice system. And again, our courts are not always as user-friendly as we'd like them to be, and that's the whole point of Opportunity Port. So we know that there are folks that are in need of the service. We know that there are folks that desperately need better access to these services, and we know getting access to those services can lead towards far better economic and housing outcomes for people in our community. So been very excited to see the work that has been happening for a number of years now, and it's very exciting to see that now go statewide, something that started literally right here in this building. So looking forward to passing this resolution later on in tonight's agenda, and congratulations to both you, Hannah, and also the Ohio State University, particularly DEPIC, for being able to take this on. This was something that we were really looking for a long-term home for this project, and so thankful that you and Ohio State has taken up the mantle to make sure that it continues in the future. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Council President.
Just want to add appreciation certainly to Hannah, but also to you, President Pro Tem. This is one of those initiatives that was birthed out of council, and I think perfectly speaks to our values of the work that we want to do. We want the community to know that we do, and so it's just really neat to see it from idea, inception to where it is today, and to hear the real life stories of people who are impacted by it. So congratulations.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. That's all the resolutions that I have tonight.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Next, I think we'll go to Councilmember White.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to invite Nobel Peace Prize winner Dr. Rutan Lau to the podium. While he comes forward, let me introduce Resolution 0313X-2024 to recognize Dr. Lau in his numerous contributions and celebrate December 5th, 2024 as World Soil Day in Columbus, Ohio. Dr. Lau is a distinguished university professor at the Ohio State University College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences, and the director of the Dr. Rutan Lau Carbon Management and Sequestration Center. Soil is vital for ensuring ecosystem health, human health, biodiversity, food production, and meeting our climate action plan goals. Dr. Lau has spent over 60 years researching soil science and promoting sustainable practices in the fight against human-caused global climate change. He is a global pioneer in the soil-centric agricultural management that improves global food security and support climate-resilient agriculture. His practices have been adopted by the United Nations at 3 separate climate conferences. For these efforts, he was awarded the World Food Prize in 2020 and many other prizes. Dr. Lau and I were talking in the hallway. I am a gardener. I know a little bit about soil, nowhere near the level that you do, which is why we have experts like you to give us the best practices so that we can continue to grow the food we so desperately need. Thank you for being here and for your work. I want to give you a chance to speak and provide some remarks if you have them.
Thank you, sir. President Harden, Council Member Christopher White, colleagues, friends, it's the greatest honor of my professional career to be recognized by my own city council. That's a very rare opportunity. I just want to say a few words. We are celebrating the World Soil Day, and that is coming up on 5th of December. And the World Soil Day is celebrated as a birthday of the late King of Thailand. His name was Bhumi Bal Atulya Tej. The first word Bhumi is a Sanskrit name, means soil. He was protector of the soil, therefore the World Soil Day is celebrated in his honor. We at Ohio State work on a concept called One Health, which means health of soil, plants, animal, people, environment, and the planet is one and indivisible. Therefore, if the health of soil goes down, health of everything else goes down with it. Therefore, soil health is the capacity of the soil to generate many ecosystem services: food security, water security, climate security, biodiversity. And the heart of soil health is soil organic matter content. And that's what we call carbon sequestration, taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and putting it in the soil. So soil has a capacity to soak in every year globally about 2.5 billion tons of carbon from the atmosphere if we manage soil properly. That's 25% of the total fossil fuel emission. But what we are trying to promote is that this concept of carbon sequestration, where soil could be a commodity that farmers could grow, like they grow corn, soybean, wheat, or any other commodity. And they should get a price for that commodity at $50 per credit. And one credit is 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. So imagine if somebody has a 400 acre of land in Ohio and they get 1 credit per acre and $50 per credit, that's $20,000 potential source of income. And we are hoping that this thing could happen through a Soil Health Act. We have at EPA Soil Clean Air Act 67, Clean Water Act 1972. We have no Soil Health Act. If we had a Soil Health Act at state level, at national level, and globally, and farmers were rewarded, all the issues of global food security, climate security, water security could really be addressed through that. So we have a slogan, we call it the mantra, healthy soil equal to healthy diet is healthy people, healthy ecosystem, and healthy environment. Your kindness to give me the recognition today is a recognition to soil, which is very rare, and I greatly salute you for doing that. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Lau, thank you for what you do. It is truly appreciated. You know, as climate continues to change, sustainable agriculture is vital to the survival of so many, and that cannot be done without experts like you kind of pushing the best practices that we're seeing both here in the state of Ohio, but globally as well. So thank you for being here. Any questions, comments from my colleagues? Well, we are looking forward to...
I'll say thank you. This is silly, so thank you so much for your life's work. I have to admit, I keep looking over to see if your fingernails are dirty from working in soil, and I realize they're not. And so it just shows you how much of an expert you are, that you can study, make our soil better, and keep your fingernails clean. That is a feat, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is very unique because we talk about big things like space scientists and neurosurgeons and chemists and physicists. But soil is the basic foundation on which all life depends.
That's so true.
There is no life without soil and no soil without life.
Wow.
And it is that important, and yet in terms of recognition, it doesn't happen very often. So for what you're doing, recognizing soil, I happen to be representing somebody who studies soil, but your recognition of soil, for which I am utterly grateful. Greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And like I said, we look forward to this passing. I will make sure to get a cup of soil for every single person on the dais so we know how important it is to our future. Thank you again for being here, Dr. Lau.
Thank you, sir.
And I have the distinct honor of calling up our last honoree, and as I call him up, would Dr. Aaron and his beautiful bride come forward? Come up. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to honor the Reverend Dr. Timothy Aarons this evening. Tonight, I want to speak to the profound mark that he has left on our city and the importance of his faith in action. As many of you know, First Congregational Church, the United Church of Christ, has been a cornerstone for justice in Columbus nearly since our city's founding. Cannot think of someone who better fits and continues that legacy more than Reverend Aarons. At every opportunity, Dr. Aarons has used his position to lead with compassion and conviction. Under his leadership, First Congregational has continued to be a place of refuge, a sanctuary of hope, and a beacon of justice, something that we need more now than ever. But Reverend Aarons' work extends far beyond the walls of his church. He epitomizes the quote often attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, "Preach the gospel at all times and use words. Only if necessary, use words." His advocacy has extended to critical issues like the end of poverty, the expansion of health care, criminal justice reform, fighting gun violence, and so much more. The abolition of the death penalty, alternative crisis, non-police response, homelessness. So we say that the list is truly endless. We mean it. He led the charge on multiple ballot initiatives to protect and uplift humanity. He founded and led BREAD as its president. He sits on the Commission for Black Girls and is a founder of We Believe Ohio. There is not a facet of his life that is not dedicated to the service of others. And that is what it means to be a true leader. And that is what it means to be led by your faith, and for faith to inform the civic and political arena. Reverend, your unwavering leadership and tireless advocacy for justice has reshaped this community for the better. And for that, we are deeply indebted to you. And while we're celebrating your retirement today, I have no doubt we will continue to see and feel your influences of ripple throughout our city for many, many decades to come. So, congratulations on your well-earned next.
Thank you.
Your voice from that pulpit will be missed, but like we said, I think that we'll hear it echoing for a long time still in our community. I want to turn the podium over to you, Dr. Ahrens, and then maybe open it up to my colleagues.
Well, I'm very humbled by your recognition, President Hardin. I have been inspired by your leadership and your openness to so many groups that I've been a part of through the years to listen, as well as members of the City Council. So thank you for the work that you do, and really that we end up doing together. And so it has always been a joy. I got here in March of 1989. I don't think most of you were born back then. I'm just kidding. Some have been. But I arrived when I was 31 years old. And Susan, my wife, is with me today. We've been together for 39 years now. And we arrived with our son, who was just 21 months old. And that family grew to 4. Wow. And the 4 have grown to 9 grandchildren. So our family has flourished in Columbus and because of Columbus. So I'm forever grateful to this city that is my home. And I realized as I put on this lovely yellow tie today, it's not maize. There's really no blue in there. I don't know what possessed me after spending Saturday in the stadium. I was like, how could that happen? But I do want to thank you for this honor. When we arrived, I remember driving downtown for the first time and calling Susan on the phone when I got down to City Hall. I was actually coming here for a meeting. And I said, there's cows in the town. And she said, no, that's not possible. I said, no. I drove by cows on 315. Some of you do not remember, but Ohio State University used to have their cows right off of Ackerman. So I felt at home, actually, because I came from an area just outside Philadelphia that had lots of cows. So it was great to come here. We moved here from Cleveland. I've spent my whole life and ministry in Ohio, the 40 years that I've served. But I want to say the key to the work that we do together and the work that all of us do as people and people of faith is to follow the words of Micah 6:8, that we need to do justice, to walk in mercy and love tenderly, and to walk humbly with God. And I think if we do those 3 things that the Lord requires, we will continue to see a better city, a better life, and a better way to move. And I just want to acknowledge that you have a huge task as city leaders, as this city is growing by leaps and bounds. Sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you're not aware how fast it's growing. But I Googled the other day, fastest growing city in America, Columbus, Ohio. You know that. You live with that and the effects of that. And as I've found from our work with folks on the streets, our unhoused neighbors, we'll be working with somebody and they just moved here from Memphis, Tennessee, or they just came here from another city because of the opportunity that they felt was here in Columbus. So they find themselves here trying to make a way out of no way. And so you have an immense challenge. And I want to commend you, but I also want to challenge us all, not you and me, but us all, to live into the mandates that we've created, including, care for those who are migrants, those who are refugees. In my work here in the city with Jewish Family Services on their board, I've been impressed by the work that we've done to resettle folks and how unsettling this moment in history is for them as they hear language that they will be sent back somewhere. Sent back where? To refugee camps that they spent their whole childhood and young adulthood in for 20 years? Is that where they're going? They're not going home. If home is there, it's not home. So we will protect them, and I will be with you on that effort. I'm not retired. I'll never be retiring, so you know that. So call on me, and call on all of us to live into the fullness of this. I do want to say that as we do these things, as we live into the commitments we've made and the vision we have for this city to be the greatest city in America, we will find that our children and grandchildren will flourish here. And when they flourish here, then their children and their grandchildren will flourish here. And this is the greatest city in America, in my mind. And I want us to do everything we can to keep it that way. So as we do these things together, as we try to continue to do justice, to walk and love tenderly, and to walk humbly, I encourage you to stay in touch as close as you can with the folks you serve, and I'm here to help in any way I can in the bridge work that's needed. Someone asked me, with this first and only, as far as I know, social justice park in America that our church built on the corner of Cleveland and Broad, with the help of the city, by the way, not alone, with the help of the community, not alone. They asked me, what's your definition of justice? And I said, it's this. It's very simple. The work of justice is to figure out what was taken from whom and to return it to them. What was taken from whom and to return it to them. And that work might be the work of dignity. It might be the work of equity and equality. It might be the work of paying back generations that were enslaved, that never had the opportunities because of that, but to create a world where those who have been stripped away have what is theirs. So I want to commend all of you. In my book, The Genius of Justice, I always look to those who are the geniuses in the work that they do. And I don't mean they have bigger heads, but we just heard two geniuses step to this mic already. One offering opportunity for people that have no opportunity, thanks to your help and work together. And then the other, reminding us that with World Soil Day, we have no life without the soil, and we have no soil without the life. So we live, as I like to say, on the earth. We live here on the earth because the earth has taken care of us. And it's not too much for us to do the same. So whatever we can do as a city, whatever we can do as individuals, I stand with you in the continued work to make this a better community and a better world. And again, I thank you for this opportunity. I'm very humbled and honored by your recognition. Thank you. Any questions?
Well, thank God to hear that you're not actually retiring. I think that this moment will need the sages that are still with us to be offense and defense for the folks who are still on the field. And we certainly see you as the sage of the city. And so the work is not done. It is not done.
Again, thank you. Thank you all for your honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if there are no more comments from my colleagues, that will conclude our special presentations this afternoon. We will vote on these resolutions officially at 5 p.m. at Council when we start our meeting. We will see you shortly. Thank you.
Turn it out.
Number 57 will now come to order. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. Councilmember Day Alcala, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This evening, Council is grateful to have the lead pastor, Mark Condon of Infinite Church, to pray with us. Pastor, welcome to Council.
Lord God, we thank you for this wonderful day, and I pray for President Hardin and this entire city council that you will lead them and bless them and guide them as they make decisions on behalf of our great city of Columbus. And I pray, Lord, today that you will just be with us as we make these decisions. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Faber, Green, Remy White, President Hardin. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of City Council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Faber, Green, Remy White, President Hardin.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. This week's communications received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll go around the dais for updates from my colleagues, starting with Councilmember Bankston.
Thank you, Council President. Just a few announcements this evening. First, I want to give Director Orth with our Department of Technology the opportunity to provide updates regarding the ongoing cybersecurity incident. Just as a reminder, we will continue to have updates at the top of every council meeting for the foreseeable future to provide opportunity for transparency and as we continue to manage through this. With that, Director Orth, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Good evening, President Hardin, President Pro Tem Dorrance, Chair Bankston, members of council. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to update you on our efforts in response to the cyber attack. Addressing the incident continues to be DOT's top priority. I'm pleased to share we've made further progress, having hardened and remediated an additional 13 applications, bringing our total remediation to 86%. As we've emphasized, our most critical systems have been restored, and we remain focused on fully restoring all systems. As of Friday, 16,692 individuals have enrolled and experienced credit and dark web monitoring services. We strongly encourage all city employees, residents, and anyone else impacted to take advantage of this service. As you know, the investigation into this act of cyber terrorism is ongoing, and consequently, to ensure everyone affected has sufficient time to enroll and experience identity theft and dark web monitoring services and cyber liability insurance, I'm pleased to announce tonight that the enrollment deadline has been extended to March 31st, 2025. To enroll, please visit columbus.gov/cyber. We're also continuing to roll out our Workspace ONE platform, which provides remote email access for city users on either city-issued laptops or personally owned computers. While full implementation will require several weeks, I would encourage those city staff who need remote email access to sign up. I'm using the platform and have successfully regained remote access to city email. In closing, cybercrime remains a persistent challenge for governments, businesses, individuals alike. We're committed to recovering from this incident, supporting those affected, and strengthening our systems to prevent future attacks. Thank you for your patience and support throughout the process. This concludes my update. I'm certainly available to answer any questions, keeping in mind the constraints of the ongoing investigation.
Thank you, Director. Any questions from any of my colleagues? All right. And again, looking forward to our upcoming hearing where I know we'll get a little bit more information about some of the more efforts that we're doing next year. Can you just really talk about the precedent of the credit monitoring? One, when organizations our size, what have you, get hit, is that something that normally happens? And then two, is it also normal to extend that and provide even longer periods of time?
President Hardin, Chair Bankston, you know, I don't know that I can speak on behalf of all the incidents across the country. I can say that personally I received a notification just this last Friday from Change Healthcare. As a reminder, their breach was in February, and just now getting the notification last Friday. Our attack was July 18th, and we sent out notification in August, in mid-August, about a month later, which I believe is a very assertive timeline. I think we were very forward-thinking in doing that, and I think extending it, as far as we're aware, for a large city government, providing the type of credit monitoring that we're providing, which includes both the credit and the dark web monitoring, along with the cyber liability insurance, is, I won't say it's unprecedented because it's not, but certainly we're proud of the fact that we're doing that, and extending it, given the ongoing nature of the investigation, was the right thing to do. So that was the decision that was made.
Thank you for that, Director. And I just highlight that because, again, I know given the holidays coming up and so many other things, folks accessing credit or opening up new things, this is a high time for data to be stolen. So again, I want to encourage folks, please, if you have not done so, sign up for that experience. If you have different platforms or you know family members, please share that with them so that they can sign up as well. It is the #1 tool that we have right now for folks to guard against their private information being out there, whether from this particular hack or from other hacks that may be happening on a daily basis. So thank you again for that update.
Thank you.
One more announcement, President Hardin. Just next Wednesday, we will be kicking off our series of hearings regarding the mayor's proposed operating budget for 2025. So next Wednesday, December 4th at 4 p.m., my office will hold the first public hearing regarding the mayor's proposed 2025 operating budget for the Finance and Governance Committee. The proposed budget, which includes the individual budgets for all the city departments with services and funds, total $1.23 billion. This hearing will include presentations from the city's Department of Finance and Management, Department of Technology, the city treasurer, and the city auditor. And just so folks understand, the finance department presents a high level of all of the departments. We will have subsequent hearings that go deeper into each of those departments' budgets in the coming weeks. And the full proposed budget can be viewed online currently at columbus.gov/2025budget. Any resident seeking to submit written testimony should forward it to Jonathan Brown in my office at jbbrown@columbus.gov by 12 p.m. the day of the hearing. All persons wishing to speak during the hearing in person must also email my office at jbbrown@columbus.gov by 12 p.m. the day of the hearing, requesting that they be added to the list of speakers. Each speaker will be limited to remarks lasting no longer than 3 minutes, and the meeting will also be live streamed on the city's YouTube channels and Facebook pages, and we will monitor those channels as well for inquiries. And that's all I have, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember De Ocar.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to share one item, a final call for submissions to the 2024 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Oratorical Contest. The contest showcases our city's talented youth through student written and performed orations based on the legacy of Reverend Dr. King. Please, all you teachers and parents out there, We encourage the students to submit their oration before the Monday, December 2nd deadline at 5 p.m. So that's Monday, December 2nd, 5 p.m. The contest will be held on Saturday, December 14th, and more info can be found by searching MLK on columbus.gov or by calling 614-645-1950. And that's all I have today.
Thank you, Councilmember. Press Pro Tem. Councilmember Favor.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Just a brief announcement. This upcoming Sunday, December 1st, marks World AIDS Day. Since 1988, World AIDS Day has been dedicated to honor those who have lost their lives, support those who live with HIV, break the stigma associated with HIV and AIDS that forces people to suffer in silence. According to the World Health Organization, at the end of 2023, about 39.9 million people were living with HIV, and as of 2022, Columbus had over 5,000 people living with HIV. Increased efforts such as PrEP prescriptions, viral suppression, and HIV testing have likely played a significant role in reducing the rates of HIV and AIDS. However, these diseases continue to disproportionately affect marginalized communities, particularly bisexual and gay men, as well as Black, African American, and Hispanic Latino populations, who together account for more than half of the estimated new HIV infections in 2022. To come together in solidarity, I encourage residents to attend the 3rd annual Shades of Red on December 1st at 5 p.m. at the Columbus Museum of Art. Hosted by Equitas Health and founded by fashion design Sawan Blakely, Shades of Red will honor World AIDS Day through fashion, music, and art, while raising funds for HIV/AIDS prevention and Brothers in Unity. To learn more about Shades of Red or to purchase a ticket, please visit shadesofred.equitashealth.com. Thank you, Council President Harden.
Thank you so much for that, Councilmember. Councilmember Green. Councilmember Remy.
Well, it's that time of year to talk about being thankful. And so I wanted to just take a moment to thank the residents of the city of Columbus for allowing me to serve almost 7 years now, next in January. But to thank all of the directors and everyone up on this dais for the opportunity to lead this city, to make it a better place, to look out for those that need looking out for, and certainly be the voice for those that can't speak for themselves. And so it's a very thankful time to think about all the blessings that we have and the fact that everyone on this stage is like family. And we grew a little bit this year. We had some growing pains as we get to know each other, but it's all been in a very positive, rewarding way to hear new voices and to have new people join us to shape this city. I want to thank my staff, Avery and Cole, for their ongoing commitment to keep me in line. Our LRO, everybody behind us here in the clerk's office that really makes this thing happen. And of course, I want to wish my colleague Shayla well, as she is about to, the class of 19 is getting smaller once again. So we are forever thankful for your service and looking forward to what's next for you. But again, sincerely, happy Thanksgiving to the residents of the city of Columbus. Happy Thanksgiving to you all, and let's make it a really safe one.
Thank you, Councilmember. Didn't even cry this year. That's good. Councilmember Weiss. Our city attorney's office, our auditor, joined Councilmember Remy in saying happy Thanksgiving to everyone and wishing everybody peace this week and family. Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent action portion of the agenda? Hearing none, may we now have a motion to waive reading of titles of 30-day legislation by the clerk? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayock, Howard, Jorns, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Finance and Governance Committee, Ordinance 3095-2024. Workforce, Education, and Labor Committee, Ordinance 3175-2024. Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, Ordinance 3208-2024, Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee. Ordinances 2959 and 2960-2024, Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. Ordinance 3075-2024, Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee. Ordinances 2952, 2961, 2965, 2979, 2996, 3004, and 3042-2024.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We don't have any speakers on first reading, so the following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent. Will the clerk now read those into the record?
Resolutions of expression 311X, 312X, 310, 314, 313X-2024. Finance and Governance Committee. Ordinances 2931, 2939, 2987, 2992, 3069, 3108, 3134, 3204-2024. Economic Development and Small and Minority Business Committee. Ordinances 2945, 3115, 3137-2024. Public Service and Transportation Committee. Ordinances 2950, 3040, 3090, 3094, 3097-2024. Neighborhoods, Recreation and Parks Committee. Ordinances 2705, 3166, 3167-2024. Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee. Ordinances 2970, 3082, and 3130-2024. Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee. Ordinances 2672, 2988, 3141, 3142, 3146, 3147, 3149, and 3150-2024. Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. Ordinances 2826, 2868, 3026, 3076, 3113, 3279-2024. Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee. Ordinances 2888, 2890, 2898, 2900, 2912, 2915, 2967, 3012, 3024, 3025, 3045-2024. Rules and Policy Committee. We have appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0193, 194, 195, and 196-2024.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have three speakers on the consent portion of the agenda. The first speaker to come before council is Jared Hashimoto. Please welcome to council. Welcome to council, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Jared Hashimoto. I'm the community leader of Site 1. I'm in support of 3150 because more personnel is needed. Earlier in the year, I was given a chance to speak with you for the first time and share a little about what Site 1 was, how it operates, and how I had specifically designed for residents to get a chance to get up and out of homelessness and a supportive, clean, and safe environment. The last time we spoke, you thanked me for my services after giving you my results after about a year, which came out to 12 residents who successfully got to their next step. As I stand in front of you now, I would like to give you my final tally. 16 found homes, 4 employment, 3 got into clinics, 1 into rehab, 0 staff, 0 in federal funding, 7 main affiliates who have verified 0 community complaints. I did use my own money from my GoFundMe someone had started for me, so I allocated some of my own funds to invest in 1 body cam, 3 security cameras, because security, transparency, and accountability was the wisest decision I could have made, since we were served a 7-day notice to vacate earlier today over 2 community complaints that I can verify we were asleep during the time when it was posted on the 23rd. My investment had also gave me a way to tell my full story and what had led to our demise and what all had followed. I thought I could ask for help from the city that thanked me for my services, but instead I was given a response for an immediate remediation filing because at the end of the day, I'm just a vagrant. I'm not here to try to start a war, nor am I trying to stop eviction from happening, but because honestly, I'm exhausted. What I am here to say is that inside what I did, because I simply did it for the right thing. It's the right thing to do, because I love this city, and I hope doing the right thing is what you consider when making your decision tonight. Both you and I are on the same team after all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hashimoto. I believe that you're speaking, and I'm assuming that maybe the next two speakers are probably speaking on information that this council learned about an hour ago about some remediation. And so are there any questions or comments for Mr. Hashimoto? What I'm going to ask is the other two speakers, if this is the topic, to come and speak as well. And then I'm going to ask the department to speak to what is going on because council was not briefed. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker to come before council is Heather Fitzgerald.
Hi, Council. I'm in support of 3150 because more personnel is needed. I'm against 3150 because some of these funds should be and could be allocated to homeless folks. Every emergency that y'all call and every redirection y'all make, a percentage of that needs to go to direct impact organizations. Imagine if Columbus, Ohio could be the example in the country for how homelessness is handled. On Monday, December 2nd, CPD will be clearing my camps. I've been doing this 12 years, taking care of camp folks. My organization, Gold Heart Outreach, is the only one in the city that provides rides to folks. On this Wednesday night, it'll be 29 degrees. I anticipate 100 people every night, 100 people. And this is we all have kids and we work. This is just something we're the only ones in this city of over 1 million people who provide this service. We spent $400 this past weekend with very limited funds that we have to prepare these folks for the cold snap that's going to happen in 48 hours, including $300 in Mylar blankets to line their tents. Rob Dorans, these are your literal neighbors, sir. All these camps, most of them are in Clintonville, within your backyard. If you do not act immediately, people will die, and their blood will be on your hands. I will not let you kill the people that I care so much about and that mean just as much as the rest of us do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Heather. And I think the last speaker on this issue is Mr. Joe Motil. Joe, welcome back to council.
Hello, everybody. President Hardin, members of City Council, Joe Motil, 167 West Cook Road. Why is the city continuing to waste tax dollars on sweeping homeless encampments? It's my understanding that there are at least 5 homeless encampments or more that are going to be earmarked to be bulldozed this Monday, while as many as 30 people could be displaced. And talk about the insensitivity of sweeping these encampments just days after Thanksgiving. And not to mention, winter weather is upon us and low temperatures on Sunday and Monday will be in the upper 20s. Myself and other local boots-on-the-ground advocates for our unhoused are tired of attending and listening to those who hold the purse strings and have political power to actually do something about this crisis. Just over the last few years, community discussions and calls to action have been held at the Columbus Metropolitan Club, the recent one at the Lincoln Theater, the Reeves Center, a church on Bryden Road, Columbus State Community College, and others. I've been there and I've heard it all, and the needle is barely moving. So far, it's been nothing but talk and acknowledging the obvious. Where is this city's Housing First initiative? Homeless advocates across the U.S. collectively agree that bulldozing homeless encampments is the #1 most counterproductive measure in addressing our unhoused. These sweeps are costly and harmful to its residents, especially when we do not have adequate temporary and/or permanent housing alternatives for those who are being displaced. And I've been told that folks who have been denied access to Van Buren due to the ongoing overcapacity, and those that do somehow get in are given a metal folding chair to sleep on. Imagine that. And once again, here we are staring at another winter, and what are the plans for additional available overnight warming centers? HUD's Home Investment Partnership Program, under its specified model programs, allows for local municipalities such as Columbus to convert in-rem properties to provide affordable permanent housing for the homeless by leasing such properties to nonprofit organizations and permitting such organizations to rehab these properties. This program targets vacant properties for rehabilitation by nonprofit organizations. Why isn't the city applying for and spending these funds towards affordable permanent housing for the homeless rather than for personnel costs? Personnel costs should be allocated for and should be coming out of the development department's budget. That's all I have to say, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Motil at this moment? Seeing that this, I think, wraps up this portion where we're bringing light to this. Again, I want to hear from the administration as well. We were informed of this afternoon as well, and so this is my first opportunity to hear from the department about what we are doing, why we're doing it, and the facts of what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With that, unless the chair has anything, I'd like to turn it over to the Director of Development.
Thank you, President Hardin, members of council. Good evening. We have identified a number of encampments that we have been working with and utilizing outreach over the past weeks and months that we can continue to encourage individuals to seek shelter services.
Ma'am, I let you speak. I let you speak. Well, first of all, if you need to watch your language, or you can take. Yes, you can remove her. Yes, you will. Please. Director.
Council President, members of council, the city does not remediate encampments for simply existing. We have timed this with the opening of the warming centers that are scheduled for December 2nd. Working with the Community Shelter Board, they've identified 4 warming centers in the north, south, east, and west. They are going to be a combination of churches, hotels, and other providers. It is going to provide over 120 beds available, and we are now in a overflow situation with the Community Shelter Board. So we will continue to work with them and our outreach providers to make sure those individuals who are living on the land have an opportunity to come in and really have an environment more suitable for human habitation.
Questions from my colleagues to the department about this instance, about the warming centers that we will stand up in response to us being notified an hour ago about this remediation. Councilmember.
Director, when will the warming stations be active? And then also, how many years have we been engaged with Community Shelter Board around these warming centers?
So this is the 3rd year where we're funding the working with the community shelter boards on the warming centers. They are scheduled to go live on December 2nd.
Okay, thank you.
Director, will the warming centers be open overnight?
Yes, they will, Councilmember.
All 4 of them. And
correct.
And am I correct in saying that each of the 4 warming centers has 40 beds with each of them? And can you share the locations for our advocates that are inquiring?
There are 40 beds in each one. On the east side, the First English Lutheran Church. On the west side, My Project USA is hosting it. I don't have the address on that. South side is going to be the New Covenant Church. And the north side, the information I have is we have a hotel identified on the north side. I will follow up with the address of that and the shelter board has all that information on their website.
Wonderful. Can you share a little bit of additional information around our thought processes with the timing of these notices being posted?
Yeah, so we have been working with our partners in our homeless system, and the shelter board and other outreach providers to making sure we've been engaging with these encampments. Due to a number of safety and health concerns, it became clear that a remediation was required at these locations. We've discussed it internally and realized the best time to move forward with something like that is once the overflow from the shelters was in place, as well as the warming centers that the shelter boards will be operating. So that is why we lined up the timing of the notice and the remediation for December 2nd.
Based on the information I'm looking at here, it looks like around half of the individuals that we were engaging with at these locations were not engaging back with us, some of them not accepting food, or basic supplies. Given that, did we have any concerns about, this remediation and a willingness to engage there? It seems like if we're thinking about, the readiness to change scale, if you look at it from a mental health social worker perspective, that there are some barriers yet to be able to move beyond.
I think we are always concerned with those individuals that have to live in conditions that really aren't aligned with kind of human habitation, so without having the sheltering opportunities. So, but we also know, and fortunately, and here tonight are some of those partners that have been helping build trust with those individuals, and we got to continue to do that. And it's, I admire the work that's being done, and I admire the work from our outreach teams and others to try to build that trust so we can get people off the land in some stable housing and sheltering. And it's more challenging nowadays because, it's rapid rehousing isn't occurring because of the limited supply of housing. So that's why we continue to invest in things like the home program. And this piece of legislation is $400,000 of admin costs that helps operate a $5.6 million home program that builds low-income tax credit housing, permanent supportive housing, and make sure we're building the units that are needed in this community. So, since 2019, the city has spent over $82 million on working in the homeless system that we have in place to make sure that we can serve everybody and work to try to identify their needs.
Director, can you talk about the engagement that has taken place with the folks that have been living on the land at these campsites?
So we've gone through our typical process in conjunction with Community Shelter Board and their outreach team members and partner agencies. We really look to make sure that we're meeting the individuals there and understanding what their needs are. And then we get to a point where if there are safety or health concerns, that's what really triggers the remediation and the cleanup of the site. I know, I'm looking at my notes. There was one site that really we had some concerns, on the health side, some solid waste sites at the right away in the parcel south of 315 North and the floodgate wall, and those become really health situations that we need to make sure we address and clean up.
Excuse me, the director is speaking.
So
let the director speak.
That's an example of the outreach and what we're learning. It's not always the city out there doing the outreach. It's the partners through the system that are out there and connecting with them. And and back to where there's trust and so forth. So we will continue to engage folks and try to provide the services we can to make sure they get housed as quickly as possible.
How can we ensure that people that are being displaced have access to their personal items?
I think that's one of the reasons we try to give as much notification as possible, and we try to work with the outreach partners and understand what those needs are. I mean, I know some of the issues we've run across in the past are things like dogs, animals. A couple of these warming centers allow a companion animal to be in there, so we're trying to accommodate those needs and try to keep as low barriers possible for folks to make sure they're comfortable coming in off the land and utilizing some of the warming centers or the shelter.
And from what we're hearing, that there is some opposition from some residents to go inside at this point in time. And so what is the plan to assist those individuals with respect to transition, if they're ready to transition?
Well, if they are ready to go inside and utilize some of the accommodations that are in place, we are going to prioritize in the warming centers beds for those individuals who said that they're willing to do that, and we'll continue to accommodate that and work with these folks that are being impacted by the remediations.
And this is my last question, Council President. In the past, we have, you all have provided more time than 1 week. Why is there a week timeline that's been issued here?
I think we're concerned, around extreme weather and the fact that we're coming into situations where the temperatures are going to drop below freezing, and having the warming center in place and getting these camps cleaned up and make sure there's alternative options, I think is really important.
Okay. Councilmember Banks.
Sorry, just one other question, Director. Just to clarify, I think you had mentioned also our, not in addition to the warming centers that we have, but also overflow. Can you talk a little bit about overflow and how the warming centers work together? And then again, what I'm hearing is that these individuals who may be displaced or vacated because of this eviction will have the opportunity to go into those warming centers. Are we prioritizing them as well? So I'm sorry, I know it's a three-part question there, but just hopefully you can answer all three.
Yeah, I want to answer the first question last. We are prioritizing those individuals who are being impacted by the remediation at these warming centers. Once the temperature hits a certain point below freezing, Community Shelter Board and their partners then go into an overflow situation where no one is turned away at the shelters. So that's in place to make sure we can get people inside. And I forgot the third question that you had. I apologize.
No, and I was just saying how overflow worked in combination with our warming centers. And I was trying to get at the spirit. I wasn't sure if the policy still was in the wintertime that we don't turn anyone away at our shelters, and that there's a bed for everyone in that circumstance.
And we're trying and working with the Shelter Board, and we really appreciate their leadership in identifying locations throughout the city. So it's not just one area. So if someone is on the east side or someone's in the south side, that there's a warming center and that they can access down there.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And I know that it is. I've heard mixed reviews and mixed stories about the shelter, and I do understand and get that from our advocates. But I would say to folks that do have those relationships, please encourage folks to engage, and please encourage them to get to somewhere safe, at least with a roof over their head, because I think that does make a difference. And I understand it's not the most ideal circumstances for most folks, but I think that hopefully being somewhere safe and warm when we're talking about this inclement weather is better than being outside on the land. And so just want to lift that up.
Principal Tim.
Thank you, Council President. Director, just to be very clear, and I think you've answered a portion of this with some of the questions that I have, just to be very, very clear. Folks that want a bed housing over the next week that have received this notice, is there housing available right now for those individuals?
We will prioritize them in the warming centers or into the shelter system.
Okay. And two, we've also heard tonight concern around transportation to those facilities. What, if anything, is being provided or offered to folks during that week period between notice and when remediation potentially occurs? What, if any, options are given to folks to be able to access meaningfully that housing, given that these are individuals that likely have transportation challenges? What is being done on that front?
Councilmember, I'm going to need to follow up, and I'll let you know exactly what's being offered.
Can you commit to this council and this body that is something that the department will take very seriously? Because again, when we talk about opening up these warming centers, that's great. I mean, that's increased capacity for folks that desperately need it, but people have to be able to get to them.
Yes, I will commit to that. I have an expectation that we will work with our partners to make sure that happens. We have done that in the past and will continue, but we will advocate and have a plan in place, and I will share that plan with you. And I apologize for not having that this evening.
Thank you, Director.
Chair Favor.
Just more of a, well, I guess there is a question here, because for the last 3 years, this council has helped to stand up warming centers, with one of my priorities being not just having a plan for the cold months, but also recognizing that issues related to weather, severe weather in our community, have brought times of stress, particularly for those who are unhoused, whether we're talking about hurricane and tornado warnings, as well as just sheer extreme hot weather in our community. And so we have convened a few times collectively, interdepartments, to talk about the implications and responsibilities of every department in putting out a full weather plan. I know my colleague, Councilmember Weish, is helping to lead that effort, but can you talk about where those plans stand? And is that part of the reason why we are getting information about the warming centers at this time?
So, Councilmember, thank you for that question. We continue to approach extreme weather on how we handle that, whether it's the heat or the cold, and coordinate within internally, whether it's with our public health, recs and parks, and other community partners on where are there opportunities for people to go to in an environment that's safe. The warming centers are as a result of that, and that's been part of that conversation that we've been had the shelter boards there, and they have led the effort on getting that set up. We will continue to coordinate internally across departments and with City Council on how are we best prepared for extreme weather, and then how are we, when we get in those emergency management situations, whether it's a tornado or a hurricane, and how do we respond to that. So those plans continue to be implemented as well as developed, and make sure that the communication across departments and with the community is occurring.
Councilmember Weiss.
And Director, I appreciate you stating that. Obviously, my staff is a part of the internal working group to kind of lead this effort. It's still in progress. I will say, from a transportation perspective, that is something we have talked about. The hope is that funding will be passed by this council next month. That way it could be available to kind of transport people, because we know how important that is to actually get people to the centers. But again, this is ongoing work across many departments as we try to figure out what each department is doing, so that we can have that under one plan that everyone is following, but it's ongoing. It's disappointing that we're almost at December and we're still planning on what we need to do, but the reality is that we have to react based on the information that we're dealing with at the moment. So I appreciate your efforts and all the departments that are kind of working to put this plan together. It's never fast enough for anyone, and we understand the challenges that it poses to our unhoused community as they deal with extreme weather. More work to come.
Well, so, Director, thank you for answering the questions of my colleagues. I'm sure there are still more questions. I think that no one on this dais questions the intent of the administration or the department in terms of making sure that our unhoused residents are healthy and safe. I think that you spoke to these folks that are unhoused are the hardest for many different reasons, and we know that working with them. And you spoke about trust being built, and that it can't just be the city; it has to be the advocates and the folks who have even closer proximity to these residents than you and I, and in keeping trust, in building that trust. One thing you need is time, and engagement and communication. It seems like there might have been a little bit of breakdown in that in some ways, at least in terms of communication, certainly with this body. But we know this is an ongoing effort, and we know what we are trying to do, which is keep people safe. We do know that in 5 days, we will be in dangerously cold weather overnight. And so this body will want to work with you to make sure the things that we ask around transportation, making sure that the folks are prioritized so that there actually is a bed if we're going to ask them to do something, that there is a place for them to go, that those things are honored. And we would like to ask for closer coordination on these types of efforts, and for you to continue to answer these types of questions, not just for the activists that come and the advocates that are here tonight, but for the members of this dais who are concerned and want to be a good partner, both with the administration, but even more so with the residents who call Columbus home. So thank you.
Council President, I would just like to say I thank you to Council for your continual advocacy on this. I need to own our breakdown in communication and apologize to you and your colleagues on City Council for not sharing this information sooner. That's on me. I apologize, and we will work to be better at that.
Thank you, Director. Are there any other questions or comments on the consent portion of the agenda? Hearing none, I move for passage. Is that right? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Day, Cowher, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Consent portion is carried. We'll now proceed with the second reading of 30-day postponed and emergency legislation. First committee to come before council is the Finance and Governance Committee chaired by Councilmember Bangston. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. First up tonight in the Finance and Governance Committee for second reading, we have Ordinance 2968-2024 to adopt the draft 2025 through 2029 Consolidated Plan and the draft fiscal year 2025 Annual Action Plan for the CDBG, Home, ESG, and HOPWA programs, to authorize the acceptance of 2025 HUD Community Planning and Development Grant Awards, to authorize the filing of the final 2025 through 2029 Consolidated Plan and final fiscal year 2025 Annual Action Plan with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the adoption of two separate but related plans in connection with the administration of the city's HUD grant program. The draft 5-year consolidated plan covers the period 2025 through 2029 and provides a forward-looking assessment of housing, community development needs, and how these needs align with funding received from HUD. The draft annual action plan identifies projects and establishes budgets related to the 2025 HUD grant allocations. Development of both the 5-year plan and the annual action plan was informed by a robust community engagement process that involved public meetings, public comment periods, survey responses, and funding requests. The 5-year consolidated plan and the annual action plan are required planning processes mandated by HUD. Last Tuesday, our office hosted a public hearing to discuss the plans, which can be rewatched on the city's YouTube page. And I just want to thank Councilmember White for attending, as well as to all of the local organizations that were there. A lot of fascinating and great projects that we heard about. I would also like to thank Director Kathy Owens and the Department of Finance, as well as Lucy McMahon, for running a smooth and successful community process. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage at this time.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Day, Cowher, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
Next, we have Ordinance 2969-2024 to authorize and direct the Director of Finance and Management to appropriate and authorize the expenditure of $4,806,427 in CDBG grant funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter in subrecipient agreements with community-based partners to undertake eligible activities and to declare an emergency. This ordinance is companion legislation to Ordinance 2968-2024 and appropriates a portion of the Community Development Block Grant Award from HUD. The appropriations and expenditures included in this ordinance were the result of a competitive grant application process conducted by the Department of Finance and Management, Office of Grants Management. This represents only a portion of the 2025 annual HUD grant allocations to the city, and subsequent ordinances will be submitted to appropriate the remaining grant funds and authorize additional agreements and expenditures for various CDBG and HUD grant-related activities. And again, just thankful for that process. We heard from a lot of different community organizations. I think a little over $30 million in requests, and so to whittle that down, as you can imagine, was very competitive. But great organizations like the Franklin Development Association, who will be standing up a nonprofit hub in Franklinton, as well as HVAC replacements and so many things that are going to go back to our community partners who are on the ground doing this work every day for our residents that need it most. So again, just really excited about this piece of legislation. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Faber Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
Next, we have Ordinance 2984-2024 to authorize the Director of the Department of Technology to enter into a professional services agreement with OST, Inc. of the District of Columbia for consulting services, to authorize the extension of purchase order PO 452697 for 1 year to make funds available through June 20, 2026, to waive relevant sections of Columbus City codes pertaining to competitive bidding, to authorize the expenditure of $800,000 from the Information Services Operating Fund, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes a professional services agreement with OST, Inc. of the District of Columbia to provide consulting services through the State of Ohio's Managed Service Provider contract in the amount of $800,000, and also authorizes the extension of an existing agreement with OST, Inc. The above described contract and purchase order extension will provide for and continue short-term professional services to support DOT operational needs for email, authentication services, voice over IP, business systems analyst, program management, GIS, and more. These services are necessary to ensure continuation of important services as DOT works to become fully staffed. Due to the immediate need of these services, the Department requests a waiver of competitive bidding, and action is requested as there is immediate need for these services to ensure that there is no interruption in critical city operations. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Faber Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, we have Ordinance 3019-2024 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management on behalf of the Department of Technology to associate all general budget reservations resulting from this ordinance with the appropriate purchase agreement with Brown Enterprise Solutions, LLC, an approved reseller of Microsoft products for Microsoft Enterprise software licensing and true-up costs, to appropriate $2,852,156.40 from the unappropriated balance of the General Fund Income Tax Set-Aside Subfund to the Department of Technology, to authorize the expenditure of $53,800 from the Information Services Operating Fund, $127,543.07 from the Municipal Court Judge's General Fund budget, and $2,852,156.40 from the General Fund Income Tax Set-Aside Subfund, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes all general budget reservations with a current purchase agreement with Brown Enterprises Solutions, LLC, for Microsoft Enterprise software licensing. Microsoft Office is the city's technology standard for desktop computing software, currently used by approximately 7,800 city employees in their daily business. The city also utilizes Microsoft software to support various enterprise applications. This ordinance will enable the city to obtain the latest versions of Microsoft software utilizing a single agreement for the city, for the entire city. Emergency action is requested so that a purchase order is issued prior to the city's auditor end of year deadline of December 23rd, and to process payment due on the new Microsoft Enterprise licenses contracted by January 1, 2025 from the supplier at the price offered. Failure to do so will jeopardize access to various Microsoft applications that are used daily in the city. I do want to note that Brown Enterprise Solutions LLC is a minority business enterprise. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Day, Coward, Dorrance, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Council President, may I move to Economic Development Small Minority Business Committee?
Please.
Thank you. Tonight in the Economic Development Small Minority Business Committee, for second reading, we have Ordinance 3009-2024 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement with the Columbus Regional Airport Authority to authorize the expenditure of $2 million from the Northland and Other Acquisitions Fund and to allow the expenditure prior to purchase order. Earlier this year, the city entered into a new grant agreement with the Columbus Regional Airport Authority for public infrastructure improvements supporting economic development in the Rickenbacker area. In the new agreement, the city made a commitment to the airport authorities to invest $15 million in the Rickenbacker area for the purposes stated earlier. This ordinance authorizes $2 million out of that $15 million commitment. Are any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Day, Coward, Dorrance, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
And last, we have Ordinance 3229-2024 to authorize the Director of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Columbus Next Generation Corporation to purchase, renovate, or construct real property assets in targeted central city areas to advance economic and community development initiatives, to authorize the expenditure of $5 million from the Development Taxable Bond Fund to advance funding per a predetermined schedule, and to declare an emergency. This ordinance simply provides to Columbus Next Gen for continued strategic acquisition of properties on behalf of the city. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Day, Coward, Dorrance, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have in my committees this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next committee to come before council is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. In the chair's absence, the vice chair will read those pieces of legislation. Councilmember Day-Alcar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. First, we have Ordinance 2980-2024 to amend the 2024 capital improvement budget to authorize the city auditor to transfer cash and appropriation within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, to authorize the establishment of an auditor's certificate for construction, inspection, and administration fees, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,259,442.19 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund for the purpose of providing sufficient funding for construction, inspection, and administration services on public service projects. This ordinance provides funding for construction, inspection, and administration deficits for capital improvement projects within the Department of Public Service and projects with the department to prevent future deficits. While construction, inspection, and administration costs are usually fully authorized in construction legislation, deficits sometimes can occur due to unforeseen conditions, weather, construction change orders, etc. The funds requested by this ordinance will be used to supplement inspection and administration costs for projects that have or are projected to run large deficits before completion. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Day, Coward, Dorrance, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 2981-2024 to authorize the Director of Public Service to expend up to $6 million from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund to support roadway improvements on I-70-71 South and East freeways, project administration by the Ohio Department of Transportation to support utility relocation, construction, and inspection costs. As many of you know, we are deep into the I-70-71 South and East freeways project, also known as Downtown Ramp Up, which is administered by ODOT and consists of several phases. This work includes reconstructing and widening portions of I-70 East and West between 4th Street and Miller Avenue, as well as resurfacing portions of both highways. Construction started in 2019 and is expected to continue through at least 2026. The estimated cost to complete the multi-phase project is $1.4 billion, which has and will continue to be funded by a combination of federal, state, and local funds. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Day, Coward, Dorrance, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Our next two ordinances have to do with snow removal in the city. And so I would now like to invite up Scott Torville from the department to speak with us about how we prepare our roadways for winter.
Please.
Thank you, Council Member. Good evening, President Harden, members of Council. We are excited to be here before you tonight to share a little bit about our preparations for the upcoming snow and ice season. I am joined.
Come on down.
I thought I was joined by Mr. Rayshawn Collins and Mr. Bob Johnson, two of our leadership staff from our street maintenance department. These two gentlemen are actually largely in charge and responsible for all of the training that our staff undergoes. That includes everything from plowing techniques, safety and preparedness, equipment maintenance, and the like. Our staff is fully prepared for the winter season. In fact, we are actually fully staffed, in large part to some of the training efforts. Our staff have a great working environment. The action before you tonight actually expands our contractor program from last year. This is where we use private firms to help assist primarily with our residential areas. So during snow events, our crews are able to focus on our priority 1 roadways, and then these contractors can help service all of the locations where our community lives in all those residential neighborhood areas. All told, we have over 4,600 miles to clear when it snows. If anyone would like to drive to Los Angeles and back, you'll only drive 4,400 miles. So just to put that in perspective, the lift that we have to do during snow and ice season. In addition to that, this year we've expanded our auxiliary program where we take city staff who don't hold a CDL and have trained them, again, thanks to Bob and Rayshawn, to drive regular pickup trucks, and again, to better serve the community during those major snow events. With that, I'd welcome any questions about our program or about the legislation before you tonight.
Y'all know where to find my street. I'm looking forward to seeing you, one of you. Any questions for my colleagues? No. Thank you, Scott, and members of your team. We all really appreciate the wonderful work that our snow warriors do and to keep our roads safe this winter. And so now to the ordinances. First, we have Ordinance 3191-2024 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Service or a designee to enter into contract with Duncan Sales Incorporated DBA Citywide Facility Solutions, Columbus, for the provision of snow removal and de-icing services this winter, to waive the competitive building requirements of the Columbus City Codes, to authorize expenditure of $85,000 from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund for that purpose, and to declare an emergency. With more than 90,000 lane miles of roadways to service each winter, the Department of Public Service seeks the assistance of other jurisdictions and independent contractors to supplement city crews on local roadways. And this year, the Department of Public Service posted a solicitation seeking local companies to assist in snow and ice removal operations on an on-call basis. Citywide Facility Solutions Columbus will be providing up to 2 trucks and staff capable of plowing or de-icing during heavy snowfall. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorans, Faber, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
And finally, we have Ordinance 3213-2024 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Service or a designee to enter into contract with Evergreen Landscape and Construction, LLC, for the provision of snow removal and de-icing services this winter, to waive the competitive bidding requirements of the Columbus City Codes, to authorize expenditure of $176,250 from the Street Construction Maintenance and Repair Fund for that purpose, and to declare an emergency. Similar to the previous ordinance, this legislation provides authorization for the Department to receive additional support from a local company to assist in snow and ice removal on an on-call basis. Evergreen Landscaping and Construction, LLC, will provide up to 4 trucks and staff capable of plowing or de-icing during heavy snowfall. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorans, Faber, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. With your permission, may I move to Neighborhoods, Recreation, and Parks Committee?
Please.
Thank you. Tonight, I would like to introduce from the floor Ordinance 3257-2024 to authorize the city clerk to enter into a grant agreement with St. Stephen's Community Services Incorporated in support of Christmas Cares Union Share, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, and to declare an emergency. Christmas Cares Union Share is a collaboration between St. Stephen's Community House and the Central Ohio Labor Council, as well as many community partners. The goal of the program is to help with food insecurity during the Christmas holiday through the distribution of a 100-pound food basket to those households who are finding themselves in a financial hardship due to job layoffs, fixed stretched incomes, evictions, or rising costs of rent and utilities. Emergency action is necessary to plan for the event on December 20th through 22nd, 2024. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dale, Coward, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That is all from me this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next committee came before council is the Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, chaired by Councilmember Favor. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in our committee, we have Ordinance 2949-2024 to authorize the appropriation of $2,553,033 within the 2024 Housing Opportunities for People with AIDS Entitlement Grant with the General Government Grant Fund from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the appropriation of $2,553,033 within the 2024 HOPWA Entitlement Grant. This funding will continue to support those eligible individuals with this program. This legislation represents the appropriation of the HOPWA portion of the 2024 Action Plan per Ordinance 2993-2023. Emergency action is requested to assure that funding is available for personnel charges as well as subsequent ordinances that are forthcoming requesting approval to expend these funds as available. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? I do believe we have one speaker this evening. Ms. Matina Bliss. Welcome back to council.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. In terms of this initiative that you guys are voting on tonight, I support giving additional money to HOPWA. It is a really good program. It helps people get housed. But I would like to spend the remainder of my time to address the 6 camps that were given eviction notices for camp sweeps this morning. Every single one of these camps is on city property, and they were all given a 1-week notice. I know that that's not standard. I used to work in outreach, and what Marcus Johnson used to tell us in our program is that 3 weeks was standard. Sometimes they'd have to speed it up, and they would only give people a week or less time if there was like an emergency. For example, if there was flooding in the Olentangy River and there were camps there and they were at risk of drowning. There doesn't seem to be an emergency for any of these 6 camps, so I am really confused as to why they only got a 1-week notice. There's also nowhere for them to go. No warming centers have opened up yet, and when I say warming centers, I specifically mean overnight warming centers. I understand that libraries and community centers and some resource centers like Jordan's Crossing and such as have hours that they are open where anyone is allowed to be inside during the day, eat a meal, do whatever they need to do, use the bathroom. But overnight, there are not any warming centers that are open. The community has been given a date from the Community Shelter Board and others of December 1st. We're less than 1 week from December 1st, that's in 6 days. There are no plans, there are no contracts that have been signed to our knowledge, so nobody has been hired, there's no staff. Where are these 50+ individuals that live at these camps going to go? I know the Department of Development is here for these meetings, and I really just would like some answers on what solutions you're going to offer. I hear often from this body and from the Department of Development that outreach is the answer. But I also know that the wait list to get into permanent housing once you start working with outreach is about a year on average. It can be longer, it can be shorter, it depends. But right now, every single program is over capacity. So you're not really working with a caseworker. If you meet with them now, you're put on a wait list, and if your phone number changes or you move, outreach can't find you. So you basically get lost from the wait list, and then you have to start that process all over again when you eventually engage with another person. So the realistic timeline for somebody to get into housing right now is closer to 2 years. So I'm really curious what the immediate solutions are being offered to these camps. Is there any temporary housing? Are there initiatives to directly help people get into a warming center? My ask, and I think a lot, like the simplest thing that could happen at the very least is that they are scheduled and they're put off until overnight warming centers open, and there's coordinated with outreach to get each and every single one of these individuals that's at a camp that's being swept to be moved into a warming center, and until then, these should be put off. Thank you for your time. I am open to any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bliss, for your testimony this evening. Director Stevens, there were a couple questions that Ms. Bliss asked. You're welcome to take a seat now. There are a couple questions that Ms. Bliss asked around timing and folks needing to vacate within a week, as well as there being whether or not there are actual overnight warming centers that are going to be available, and if those things should coordinate to ensure a smooth transition for our residents.
Thank you, Council President, Chair Favor, members of Council. So the warming centers are overnight facilities that are still scheduled to open on December 1st. Since I last spoke to you, I went back and got through my emails and confirmed from the shelter board that they have done their training and have those facilities in place. With regards to the timing as to why we are gave the 1 week notice, really driven by the concern over the dropping temperatures and encouraging folks to take advantage of the warming centers and some of those other shelter opportunities. So I think that's what's driving the 1 week. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Councilmember Green.
I guess I just have a question about logistics. So we are moving into a long holiday weekend, and then the warming centers open on a Sunday, and then people are being evicted on a Monday. But if they're trying to move, I mean, if you've moved, it's hard, first of all, and then you have lots of different barriers. Most people don't have a car. Most people don't have, a lot of our traditional supports, but it takes most people multiple days to move, even in a best case scenario. So if the warming centers aren't open yet, and people want to, just for their own health and safety, start that process now, they really, from a practical standpoint, couldn't, based on that timeline. Is that, am I doing my calendar wrong, I guess?
No, Council President, Councilmember Green, members of Council, I do appreciate that perspective, and I clearly, back to my answer to Councilmember Dorans, we need to provide the transportation plan and share with some of how we've worked with our partners on the logistics of that. I think that answers some of that, and I'm sorry I'm not prepared to give you those details this evening.
And then if I could ask one other question. So we're talking a lot about the importance of our partners and how critical they are to this work, and being able to help provide those connections and being able to provide that place of safety and warmth, or the emergency shelter or temporary home for people, the case management services that are needed to support people. As we are looking at planning for an additional 50 people, and then the current people that are engaged in our continuum of care across our emergency shelter system now, and then we are looking at the evolution of these problems and how they're growing and changing, and looking at next year's budget and some gaps we have to bridge. Do we have a plan? Have we given thought, as we are relying more and more on this continuum of care, what the implications might be if we don't have the funding needed to sustain it?
Thank you, Council Member. So in the budget that the mayor submitted, we included $5.9 million on homeless funding. We continue to work with our partners in the system to try to understand what other gaps exist and other ways to close some of those gaps on the funding. I can also tell you, this evening in your consent agenda, you approved a couple pieces of legislation around our Elevate grants that help not-for-profits that are helping folks with housing. So we'll continue to look at that and other ways to meet those needs.
Are there any additional questions or concerns by my colleagues at this time regarding the legislation to support our residents who are living with HIV/AIDS? With that, I move for passage.
Second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayoc, Howard, Dorans, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 2859-2024 to agree to an adjustment to the city's boundaries by consenting to transfer approximately 12.47 acres from the city of Columbus to the city of Upper Arlington. The ordinance is a boundary adjustment between the city of Columbus and the city of Upper Arlington has been proposed. The site is a right-of-way along Henderson Road corridor from roughly Moreland Drive West to the east to just beyond Chevy Chase Court to the west. The proposed adjustment moves the city of Columbus corporate boundary northward along Henderson Road. The transfer will place the entirety of the right-of-way within the city of Upper Arlington. The legislation was previously postponed on November 18th to allow for additional conversation with stakeholders. With that being said, are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? I would like to move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Submitted.
Thank you, and now I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Favor Green, Remy White, President
Pass.
Harden.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 2989-2024 to adopt a new combined development-related fee schedule for the Departments of Building and Zoning Services, Public Service, and Public Safety. The Development Services Special Revenue Fund was created to support the activities of the Department of Building and Zoning Services and other agencies charged with the review of private development, construction review, and inspection processes. This fund is supported solely by fees collected from the users of these services associated directly with the private development, construction review, and inspection processes. The current fee structure has been fully reviewed and compared to the actual costs incurred by the Department of Building and Zoning Services and other reviewing agencies and partners. As a result of these review, fees have been increased, primarily targeting larger projects. This proposed fee schedule has been reviewed by the Building Services Review Council. To accommodate for the timeline of the combined development-related fee schedule, I move to postpone this ordinance to December 9th.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you, and
Postponed, I'm sorry.
thank you. May I move to Rules and Policy?
Please.
We have ordinance 2924-2024 to amend City Code Section 591.04 to allow for an increase in the fare rate schedule for licensed taxi cabs for travel and waiting times from 45 cents to 50 cents. In April of 2024, the license section was transferred from the Department of Public Safety to the Department of Building and Zoning Services. Pursuant to City Code Chapter 591, owners and drivers of taxi cabs in the city are required to be licensed by the license section. It has been brought to the city's attention that the fare rates for taxis has not been updated for over 10 years. To ensure that taxi cab operators are competitive with each other, therefore, it is necessary to amend the travel and waiting time fare rates to allow for an increase from 45 cents to 50 cents, which requires a change to City Code Section 591.04. To accommodate for the timeline of this ordinance, I move to postpone this ordinance to December 9th.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Favor Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Postpone.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next committee to come before council is the Health, Human Service, and Equity Committee, chaired by Councilmember Green. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight, in our Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee, we have two ordinances on second reading. The first is Ordinance 3028-2024 to authorize and direct the Board of Health to accept the grant service contract from the Alcohol, Drug, Mental Health Board of Franklin County in the amount of $1,860,960. Let me just start that number over again. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little under the weather today. In the amount of $1,860,697.11 to authorize the appropriation of $2,230,697.11, which includes program revenues to the Health Department in the Health Department Grants Fund, and to declare an emergency. These funds will be used by the Alcohol and Drug Services Program to serve clients for treatment and MAT services, to educate and treat those with substance misuse disorders, to provide prevention education, enhance coping skills to delay substance use for youth. The ADS prevention program will serve clients who may receive multiple services through Columbus City Schools, after school and summer programs, Latina prevention programming, HIV early intervention sites, parenting classes, and rec centers. The Neighborhood Social Services Gun Violence Grant Program will serve 45 clients by creating a support network for families after loss from paid peer supporters who have experienced loss as well. The Grief Counseling Grant Program will serve 40 clients by providing expedited access to grief counseling for families impacted by homicide. This ordinance is submitted as an emergency to allow the financial transaction to be posted in the city's accounting system as soon as possible to avoid forfeiture of the grant funds. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please. Oh, you have a speaker?
Oh, on this one? I thought it was on the next one.
Is that true?
Okay.
the
Yes,
speaker is
never
Emily
mind. I'm so
Myers.
sorry. So at this point, if there's no questions or comments, I believe we have one speaker on this ordinance, Ms. Emily Myers from Here to Serve. Ms. Emily, if you'd like to come to the stage or podium. Thank you very much. Welcome back to council.
Good evening, council. Thank you for having me. I'm here in support of this ordinance. Adam H. is a great board that works with folks who are people who use drugs, people in the community, and I'm here to support this because, like a lot of my other activists have already said, we have a camp sweep coming up, and so one of the things that happens with camp sweeps afterwards is we have a lot of overdose deaths. We have a lot of overdoses that are happening as communities are torn apart. And coming up on Monday, these 6 communities will be torn apart and they will suffer. Some of them will die. So like Heather, we talk about partners, the woman that was asked to leave already, she is a community partner. She's one of the people that gives folks rides to the warming stations and things like that. She's literally kept more people alive than anybody I can think of in this room. So just want to stay on that real quick. And then the other piece, I used to be an outreach worker for Mount Carmel. Again, like the other advocates and activists have said, it takes 2 years, roughly, to get into housing. I'm currently running a housing program with CSB, and in that time period of almost a year, we have gotten 4 people into permanent supportive housing that they need to stay living human beings. It's only 4 because there's no housing that is made available. If luxury housing was the answer to our housing crisis, we would have solved it by now. We have not. So I would like to remind folks, I've worked in outreach. I also worked in 2020 at the warming stations. I was front line during COVID, watching many of our neighbors die. People that you all in this room will never remember their names. You'll never even hear their names. You'll never see their grieving families. But us advocates and activists, we will. We are the ones supporting them. We are the ones literally keeping people alive, and we are here begging you to do more. These funding amounts, I hear you, in millions of dollars. I get it. But I watched, 4 homes being built for over $8 million? We're over 50,000 short just for affordable housing. I'm referencing the REAP and that thing with the duplexes. But we don't have anything for people, and luxury housing is not getting it. These developers are not getting it. We talk about retail market or fair rent market for people, that we need that in mixed use to offset the cost. It's not fair market, it's retail, it's whatever these developers can get, and a lot of them pay campaign contributions, including to our mayor. So how is this prioritizing our folks who have no money and nothing when all we provide for them is violence and bulldozers? I yield my time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Myers. And I just really want to publicly thank you for your service and for your advocacy and for your willingness to be out on the front lines all the time, inhospitable, weather outdoors during a global pandemic. And so it definitely does not go unnoticed, and we're very grateful for you and your advocacy.
Madam Chair, I have a question. I have a question for the director. Director, as we make decisions around emergency inclement weather, is there a temperature? Because I'm looking at the forecast for Sunday night, Monday night, starting Saturday night, it's 19, 21, and then 2 nights of 18 degrees. How does, and I'm hearing people in the back say 16 degrees is emergency. How do we prioritize safety, and like how did that go into this timing in terms of needing to move them? Is it a weather emergency, and is it a safety call? How is that coordinated? Who makes that call that this is a safety call to move this in an emergency fashion?
So the temperatures, Council President, have hit a level where we've gone into the overflow in our shelter system and have opened that up. It was a health and safety review of that. I don't think anyone is happy with just a week, and I think we've discussed that some on the short nature of that. So putting up the notices now, making sure people are aware that we're in an overflow situation, and also aware that starting the 1st, we're going to have the warming centers open is really important. So that's what's really driving that. I think, can I recall off the top of my head the number of what temperature we're at that triggers that? I do not, but I know that the temperature, whether it's cold or heat, has an impact on that.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Director, I appreciate your response in this and willingness to answer the questions that the body has provided here today. But I think in light of today's conversation, there appears to be some additional opportunities to fill in some gaps. And so my question to you is, can we extend this time frame for our residents to, number one, be briefed about what is being asked of them, to continue to coordinate with our outreach service partners to ensure that there is a smooth transition from off the land to in shelter, and then to President Pro Tem's question around transportation and just sheer communication for folks who are, by definition, transient. My ask today would be for an extension to that time, noting that we are abutting critical weather.
Thank you, Chair Faber. I think that is a reasonable request and one that we can work to accommodate and make sure as we go through the logistics, understand the transportation side of it, we find a time and accommodate that. So, yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that willingness. And more importantly, I know the residents will appreciate that courtesy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Director. And can we work together and collaboratively to figure out how we can make sure we're communicating that change out in a way so there's be clearly understandable. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Did we pass this? Okay. Any further comments or questions for my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayal, Cowher, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you very much. And then finally, we have Ordinance 3135-2024 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to accept and execute a reimbursable grant agreement in the amount of up to $6,682,210 from the U.S. Department of Human Services, and to authorize the appropriation and expenditure up to $6,682,210 for the Department of Development within the General Governmental Grant Fund to authorize the expenditure of funds effective October 1st, 2023 through the term of the grant ending September 30th of 2026, and to declare an emergency. The U.S. Federal Emergency Management System, or FEMA, has partnered with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to execute a new grant program to focus on assisting local governments with funding to provide shelter and other quality of life needs to asylum seekers, documented immigrants, and immigrants with temporary probationary protected services. The Department of Development submitted the application and received notice on September 23rd of 2024 that the city had been awarded this allocation of federal assistance, and the grant will be utilized by the Department of Development to provide hotel and non-congregate shelter beds for documented immigrants, immigrants with temporary probationary status, asylum seekers needing short-term shelter stays, and others. The term of the grant provides for reimbursement of funds expended from October 1st of 2023 through September 30th, as was stated in the legislation. Director, I know that we've had a lot of conversations about providing temporary and emergency shelter for folks, and certainly this population of people is one of the ones that I think often will fall through the cracks, right? And so I just didn't know if you wanted to speak on this ordinance, which I think really, it was a competitive grant process. The city, received a sizable allocation, and I think we have, an innovative program coming down the pipeline to bridge some of those gaps, to your point. Did you want to make any comments about it?
Thank you, Chair Green. I just would reiterate that it was a team effort throughout our system and working with our partners to go after these dollars and continue to find ways to meet the need in our community, and appreciate the support, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work you're doing on that. Were there any other comments or questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Faber, Green, Remy, White, President Harden.
Thank you very much. That's all I have in our committee tonight.
Council is the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. I have one ordinance tonight in Public Safety and Criminal Justice, but I do want to make a quick announcement that next week on Thursday, December 5th at 4:30, we will be holding a hearing to review the City Attorney's proposed 2024 liquor objections. There will also be a proposed fire code change in that hearing. And then on December 12th at 5 o'clock, we'll have a public a budget, 2025 operating budget for the committee as well. So tonight I have ordinance 3071, 2024, to authorize the director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into a contract with Magnet Forensics to renew digital licenses and procure additional software licenses, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Codes, to authorize the expenditure of $298,937.15 from the Law Enforcement Contraband Seizure Fund, and to declare an emergency. Deputy Director Jan Gardella, could you please explain the waiver of competitive bidding, please?
Yes, President Harden, Chair Remy, members of council. Magnet Forensics has been for a number of years our vendor. A lot of the software that we use is proprietary through them. They have actually, over the last several years, been buying up a lot of their competition, so there's really only a couple vendors that provide this type of software. So this is the type of software we need to use, and it's what we've been using. Therefore, we respectfully ask council's approval of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Faber, Green, Remy, White, President Harden.
Passed.
And that is all I have in public safety and criminal justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a motion to recess? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayock, Howard, Dorrance, Faber, Green, Remy, White, President Harden.
We are in recess. 5 minutes, and we will go to zoning. Number 58 will now come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Can I get a motion to suspend the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Dorrance chairs it. All members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Before we begin tonight's zoning agenda, allow me to briefly explain our current rules speaking before council on rezonings and variances. We only hear a staff presentation for ordinance that have a disapproval from a recommending body, or if we have a public speaker signed up to speak against an ordinance. We permit 3 speakers on each side of an ordinance, 3 proponents, 3 opponents. We ask that speakers limit their remarks to 3 minutes per the standard rules of the City Council. Only those who own property within 125 feet of an address that's subject to variance request are legally able to make public comments on a council variance pursuant to advice from the City Attorney's Office. All speakers on the council variance, including the city staff, area commissioners, applicants, and members of the public, will be sworn in before they give testimony. Representatives in the area commission are always able to speak on an ordinance, but do not need to fill out a speaker slip, but we do ask you, city staff, of your intention to speak at this committee hearing. This evening, we do not have any public speakers slips filled out. On the advice of the City Attorney's Office, we'll now swear in the city staff. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth? I usually answer in pains of penalty of perjury. If so, please say I do. I do. Floor, please let the record reflect that Brandon Carpenter from the Department of Building and Zoning Services has been sworn in. First, we have Ordinance 3053-2024 to rezone 2025 Leonard Avenue, being 1.37 plus acres located in the southwest corner of Leonard Avenue and Brentnell Avenue from AR12 Apartment Residential District to LM Limited Manufacturing District. The site consists of 2 undeveloped parcels, and the resulting rezoning will allow a bus repair facility and a bus parking lot. The proposal has approved from City staff, Development Commission, and the North Central Area Commission. Do my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I first move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. And I knew I'll move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 2921-2024 to rezone 5141 Causeway Road, being 264.35 plus acres located on the west side of Causeway Road, 1,900 feet north of Hayden Run Road from PUD 6 Planned Unit Development District, LI Limited Industrial District, Institutional District to LAR 12 Limited Apartment Residential District, CPD Commercial Plan Development District, and LI Limited Institutional District. This 264-acre site consists of 8 parcels developed with agriculture uses, and the requested rezoning will allow a multi-unit residential, commercial, and institutional development that could result in just over 2,000 new housing units. The site within the planning area of interim Hayden Run corridor plan and proposal includes a mix of single and 2-unit dwellings, townhouses, multi-unit residential uses, a commercial component, and a mix of public and private open spaces that are distributed throughout the development. Proposal has development that also increases the amount of open space adjacent to the Heritage Trail to the site's southwest corner, consistent with the Columbus citywide planning policies design guidelines. A concurrent council variance proposed to reduce development standards for lot width, lot area, building lines, building and garage height to allow townhouse units on the front of private streets, which will be considered later in tonight's agenda. Proposal has approved from City staff, Development Commission, and while there's no area commission in this area, the Hayden Run Civic Association is also in support. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I first move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. I move for passage as amended.
Second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to the council variances portion of our agenda. First, we have Ordinance 3054-2024 to grant a variance provisions of Section 3312.21A, landscape and screening, 3312.27, parking setback line, and 3363.24, building lines in an M manufacturing district of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 2025 Leonard Avenue to allow reduced development standards for a bus repair facility and parking lot in the LM Limited Manufacturing District. The applicant has received a recommendation of approval from staff and the Development Commission for the concurrent rezoning that we just heard. The requested variance will allow for reduced parking and building setback and relocation of a tree island. Proposal again has approval from city staff and the North Central Area Commission. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Accept it.
I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Thank you. Next, move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Amend it.
Thank you. And finally, move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3152-2024 to grant a variance provisions of section 3332.38H and G, private garage, of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 216 Orchard Lane to allow habitable space above detached garage with increased height in the R3 residential district. Site consists of a single unit dwelling with detached garage, and the requested council variance will allow habitable space within the detached garage. A council variance is required because the zoning code only allows a habitable space within a garage when it's connected directly to the habitable space in a dwelling. A variance is, to increase the garage's height is also included in this request. The proposal has approved from city staff and the Clintonville Area Commission. Do my colleagues have questions or comments? Seeing none, I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Thank you. And finally, move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 3155-2024 to grant a variance provisions of section 3332.03 R1 Residential District, 3309.14 Height District, 3312.21A Landscaping and Screening, 3312.27 Parking Setback Lines, 33333.18 Building Lines, and 3333.255 Landscaping and Screening in the Columbus City Codes for property located at 5700 Chatford Drive to allow parking in the R1 Residential District and apartment complex, reduce development standards in the AR3 Apartment Residential District. This 8.71 plus acre site consists of 3 undeveloped parcels, and the requested council variance will allow a 192 unit apartment complex consisting of 9 apartment buildings and a residence clubhouse. A council variance is necessary because a portion of the building a portion of the required parking for the apartment complex is located in the R1 residential district, which is not allowed use. Additional variance to increase building height, reduced parking lot shade tree count, reduced parking setback, reduced building lines, and reduced perimeter yards included in the request. The proposal has approved from city staff and the Far East Area Commission. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Accept it.
I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Thank you. And finally, move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 2923-2024 to grant a variance provisions of section 3333.02 AR12, ARLD, AR1 Apartment Residential District uses, 3332.05 A4 Area District Lot Width Requirements, 3332.15 R4 Area District Requirements, and 3333.10 AR12 Area District Requirements, and 3333.18 Building Lines, and 3333.26 Height Districts, 3333.35G private garages, and 3333.41 H standards of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 5141 Cosgrave Road to allow reduced development standards for the mixed-use residential development in the LAR12 Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant has received a recommendation of approval from staff, the Development Commission, for concurrent rezoning we heard earlier. This requested variance will allow customized development standards for 8 sub-areas for mixed residential development. The requested variances are supportable as they will allow development that is similar in character to the other developments within the area and are consistent with this Columbus City-wide planning policies, or also known as C2P2. The proposal is approved from city staff, and again, there's no area commission as part of the city, but the Hayden Run Civic Association has lent their support to the project as well. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. I next move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
And finally move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all we have in tonight's zoning committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeing no further business come for the zoning committee, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Ayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned.
Order to authorize the transfer of $600,000 between object classes in the Electricity Operating Fund and to authorize the expenditure of $1,322,000 from the Electricity Operating Fund. This legislation will allow for the purchase of lamps and streetlights and accessories from various vendors. The equipment purchase will be used on the Division of Power's electrical distribution system to serve new and existing customers, as well as replenish stock for maintenance of existing infrastructure. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Dayak, Howard, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Thank you. And finally, I have ordinance 2948-2024 to authorize the director of the Department of Public Utilities to modify and increase the contract with Ascension Construction Solutions, LLC for the Department of Public Utilities wastewater treatment facilities professional construction management services project, to authorize an amendment to the 2024 capital improvement budget, to authorize the transfer of funds and appropriation between projects in the sanitary bond fund, to authorize an expenditure of up to $1,788,615.72 within the sanitary bond fund to pay for the contract modification and to declare an emergency. This contract was bid in June of 2022 and was awarded for 3 years with 2 planned funding renewals. This is the second planned modification for services during the work assignment window with this firm. The increased funding is needed to allow for additional projects requiring services, and the cost was determined based on factors like labor rates, estimated time to perform the task. The emergency designation was requested for this ordinance, so funding does not run out, requiring contract work to stop, which could subject the department to delay charges and increase the cost of the project. Let me stop there, see if there are any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Dayak, Howard, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committee, but I do have 4 ordinances and rules and policy. May I continue? Please. Thank you. I'm going to speak to ordinances 2836-2024, 2837-2024, 2838-2024, and 2839-2024 as a package, since they all address our new annual utility rates for 2025. After explaining, I will read the titles and then ask to move for passage. In order to reduce some of the costs related to the proposed new rates, these ordinances also include expanded eligibility for existing senior and low-income programs and the creation of a new discount program for the Division of Power customers. 2836-2024 sets new water rates and expands eligibility for low-income and eligible senior customers. 2837-2024 sets sanitary sewer rates. 2838-2024 sets stormwater rates, and 2839-2024 sets new electric rates for the Columbus Division of Power customers, creates a new low-income adjustment and updates the senior citizen adjustment for the Division of Power customers, and changes the Sewer and Water Advisory Board to include the Division of Power, assigns it to review electric rates, and renames it to the Utility Advisory Board going forward. I want to highlight that the power increase we'll be voting on reflects 1 year of a 5-year rate increase plan for residents, as opposed to the originally proposed 3-year rate increase plan. After many discussions with the department, the mayor's office, and community members, we agreed to stretch the increase out over 5 years for a more incremental increase. With regards to all of the rates, we understand our community is taking on a bulk of the burden when it comes to the growth in our region. And while this growth is good for our communities, we understand the impact it has had and will continue to have on our residents. However, these investments need to be made to prepare our city for the future. Regarding the new rates for water, sewer, and stormwater, respectively, the increases are 7%, 6%, and 1%. The overall impact on typical residential customers' water bills will be an average increase of about $13.67 per quarter, or about $54.67 per year for standard usage. For power customers, they can expect a monthly bill increase of around $5.85 to $8.90, or about $70 to about $106 annually, depending on the rate class. The discount programs outlined for water and sewer. Eligible customers will receive a 25% discount on water and sewer charges. That's up from 20%. Income qualifications, the income threshold has been raised to 200% of the federal poverty level. Bill credits participants enrolled in our discount programs will receive a one-time $65 bill credit to help offset these rate increases. For power, the low-income program is brand new. Again, the discount on energy charges will be 25%. It is available to residential customers only. Residents must provide proof of total household income or proof of participation in SNAP, Ohio Medicaid, low-income energy assistance, Ohio Works First, or public housing benefits. In addition, they will also receive a $50 bill credit to help offset the rate increases. We need folks to enroll in these programs, so if you need assistance or you know those who may need assistance, please encourage them to visit columbus.gov/payassist or contact customer service at 614-645-8276 or email utilityleadrep@columbus.gov so that they can enroll in these programs to get the assistance that they may need. Before I ask for comments or go into each ordinance, Deputy Director, was there anything else you wanted to kind of add?
President Hardin, members of council, the Department of Public Utilities would like to thank City Council for their review and support of our 2025 utility rates. We'd also like to thank the members of our Sewer, Water, and Advisory Board for their service to our board and the continued review of our operations, their rate recommendations, and their continued advocacy and request for expansion of our customer discount programs. As you know, these rate increases are necessary to continue to provide the necessary utility services to 1.4 million residents in our water and sewer service area and to the 19,000 electric customers we serve. These rate increases will allow the department to continue to make system capacity improvements and support the treatment and maintenance costs and keep power on 24 hours, 7 days a week. We are aware of the burden rate increases place on residents. We are expanding, as Councilmember White detailed, our discount program in 2025 by increasing the federal poverty level eligibility criteria from 150% to 200%. We're also increasing the discount again from 20 to 25%. And finally, we're offering 2 discounts, $65 credit for water and sewer low-income customers and a $50 credit for our new power low-income program to help offset these increases. We hope these measures will help customers in need. And again, thank you for your continued support of the 2025 utility rate increases.
And thank you, Deputy Director, as well as the entire department and the administration for their willingness to work with us to make sure that we can meet the needs of our residents while also understanding the challenging circumstance that folks are in at the moment. So with that, I will read the ordinances. First, I have 2836-2024 to amend various sections of Chapter 1105 of Columbus City Codes to enact new water rates for the year beginning January 1st, 2025, to expand eligibility for low-income and eligible senior customer discount programs, and to repeal the existing sections being amended. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none,
I will say, just want to thank you and the department, the advocacy that went on from your office on behalf of council and the work that the administration did to, one, educate the community, make those changes to make sure that this necessary increase to protect our water and our ability to provide clean and healthy water was at least burdensome on folks who are already struggling in our community. There was real work done at your hearing and in between. And so I just want to appreciate just the working relationship between council and the administration to do a necessary thing, provide a service, but also understand the impacts that it has on folks this year. And I think that we got to a better outcome. Excuse me. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Day, Akauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Hardin.
We're going to bring that back one time.
He didn't move.
So one, Council President, thank you for mentioning that. We do appreciate all the work that has been done. No other questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Day, Akauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Hardin.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have 2837-2024 to amend chapters 1139, 1145, and 1147 of the Columbus City Code to enact new sanitary sewer service rates for the year beginning January 1st, 2025, to expand eligibility for low-income and eligible senior customer discount programs, to update the naming convention of the Division of Sewerage and Drainage Plants, to provide flexibility regarding sewer lateral slopes, to provide clarification regarding separate sewer connections, and to repeal existing sections being amended. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have 2838-2024 to amend section 1149.08 of the Columbus City Code to enact new stormwater fees for the year beginning January 1st, 2025, and to repeal the existing section being amended. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And last, I have 2839-2024 to amend Chapter 1163 of Columbus City Codes to enact new electric service rates for the year beginning January 1st, 2025, to repeal the existing sections being amended, to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Utilities to implement a new low-income adjustment and update the senior citizen adjustment, and to add a representative of the Division of Power to the Sewer and Water Advisory Board, assign it to review electric rates and rename it to the Utility Advisory Board. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I first move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. And now I move for passage as amended.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And that is all I have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there, see no further business coming before council, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Dayakauer, Dorans, Favor, Green, Remy White, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. We have two non-agenda speakers. The first speaker to come.